Hey there, today we're going to look at four different Archaludon EX deck lists for post-rotation standard format. And today we're not going to do any gameplay. I'm feeling kind of tired, so it's going to be a shorter video. But I did want to get this out there talking about some Archaludon EX deck lists for post-rotation and how I would go about building them. Before we get into that, though, I just want to mention that I do offer one-on-one coaching over on Metafy. And if you're interested in seeing how I've helped students, you can read the reviews on there. And I highly suggest my competitive Pokemon TCG Masterclass. This is over 6 hours of both video and article content covering pretty much everything I can teach you about the fundamentals of the Pokemon trading card game, from decision making to deck building to metagaming to how to have a strong mental fortitude to how to practice, how to avoid burnout, gameplay examples. Everything you could want is in here, and it also comes with free updates. So if you're at all interested in leveling up your game and becoming a consistent day two player, consistently winning your locals, getting an invite to the world championships, my one-on-one coaching and my masterclass has helped people do just that. Now let's get into the Archaludon decks. So let's start with Archaludon Poison. So this is one that has been having a good bit of success in Japan, and I want to talk about kind of why the deck is built the way it is. So at the base of it, you have the potential for turn one wins, right? You have the Pecharunt with the ability Toxic Subjugation. As long as this Pokemon's in the active, put 5 more damage on your opponent's poisoned Pokemon. And then you have Brute Bonnet, which can activate poison, so you can poison your opponent with this. And then you also have Perilous Jungle. During Pokemon checkup, put 2 more damage counters on each poisoned non-dark Pokemon. So at the base of it here, we have this Pecharunt, Brute Bonnet, Perilous Jungle combo that can do up to 8 damage counters worth of poison on the very first turn of the game going first. So that's already something that we have. Now we also have the Archaludon line, which of course Archaludon EX 300 health, does 220 damage, and when you evolve it, you accelerate 2 basic energy, metal energy from your discard to one of your metal Pokemon. So in this version of the list, you're just almost always going to be accelerating onto your own Archaludon EX and nothing else. You could also accelerate onto a Duraludon if you needed to attack with a single prizer, but most of the time we'll be using Archaludon. Now, the poison package is not just here for that early donk potential. It's also here because you can, poison plus Perilous Jungle. Now, if you swing 220 with Archaludon, the poison pings another 3. So that's almost like doing 250 damage. This will also help you get through Pikachu EX, which I think getting through Pikachu EX is going to be very important in this upcoming metagame. And when I say that, I mean the ability Resolute Heart that says if this Pokemon has full HP and will be knocked out by damage from an attack, it is not knocked out, and its remaining HP becomes 10 HP instead. So if you do 220, this will go to 190, and then Poison will tick and knock it out between turns, which it's also great knocking things out between turns with Poison instead of with damage, because that means they can't use something like Pheasantipity, which specifically says the Pokemon had to be knocked out during your opponent's last turn. If it's knocked out by poison, it was knocked out between turns, not on your opponent's last turn. And now the last piece of the puzzle here is binding Mochi. So if you poison your own Archaludon, now your binding Mochi will allow you to do 260, and then poison ticks for 270, and then Perilous Jungle, if you have that as well, will bring that all the way up to essentially 290 damage. So that's the idea with this version of Archaludon. We have a way for turn 1 knockouts, we have a way to boost our damage, and we also have a way around Pikachu EX. Moving on to the next one, I think if I had to choose an Archaludon EX deck to play to a tournament right now, I think it would be this list. So I have some pretty interesting stuff going on here with this one. Keep in mind, like I was talking about, I think getting around Pikachu EX is pretty important because it's a part of Terra Box, and Terra Box is looking to be one of, if not the best deck. in the post rotation format. So we have a couple ways around Pikachu EX here. So the first one is we have Rigid Band. The stage 1 Pokemon this card is attached to takes 30 less damage from attacks. So if you have Rigid Band on your Archaludon and Pikachu hits you for 300, you will survive with 30 health remaining. You'll be at 270. And that means since you survived with damage on you, you can use Monkey Dory's Adrenabrain with a Dark Energy attached to move 3 damage from your Archaludon onto the Pikachu, and then you knock out the Pikachu because the Pikachu is no longer at full health if you put damage on it with Adrenabrain. Now, the other cool thing in this deck is Calamitous Snowy Mountain. Whenever a player attaches an energy from their hand to one of their basic non-water Pokemon, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. So, for example, turn 1, you attach Metal to Duraludon, pass. Turn 2, you evolve Assemble Alloy, set up your Archaludon, bench Monkey Dory, play down Calamitous Snowy Mountain, attach Basic Dark Energy to your Monkey Dory, which will put 2 damage on that Monkey Dory, and that gives you 2 damage to move with Adrenabrain. So what Calamitous Snowy Mountain is doing is it's giving you a way to produce damage on your own board for Adrenabrain. So just that 20 damage will mean that Metal Defender can now do up to 240 essentially, which that knocks out a Raging Bolt. It also helps you go through the Pikachu, like I mentioned. And then we also have some other damage mods, Kieran and Black Belt's training in here. Kieran can be a switch and do 30 more damage to your opponent's Pokemon EX. This is only a plus 40 to your opponent's Pokemon EX. And the reason I'm only playing the 1 Rigid Band is because I'm more all in on the Snowy Mountain strat here to produce damage, but this kind of gives you 3 cards you could draw into that will help into the Pikachu EX matchup. Or the Terra Box matchup, I should say. Then we also have Hop Zacian EX. The Brave Slash 240 is going to be used to one-shot a Cornerstone Ogerpon EX because Archaludon cannot do that. Now, there is another Zacian EX that is not Hop Zacian that could also knock out a Cornerstone for 1 less energy. But honestly, I don't even know when we're going to get this card because it came out in starter decks in Japan. I'm not sure if this is in Journey Together, but if it is in Journey Together, it could be a consideration to play this instead of the Hop Zacian since it will knock out a Cornerstone for 1 less energy, and that's pretty much the main reason why I'm including the Hop Zacian in this deck list. So moving on to the next version, we have Archaludon with Double. So, Hop's Double is an interesting card. When you evolve this Pokemon from your hand, you can use a Boss's Orders effect. You can gust something up from your opponent's bench to the active spot. And then you'll see the rest of this list is going to look pretty similar to the previous build. However, I'm going to run Jamming Tower in here to get around Bravery Charm, maybe to turn off some early TM Evos, maybe to turn off a Sparkling Crystal. But we're not playing anything here that can get around Pikachu, necessarily knocking it out. However, we can get around it by literally going around it and knocking out other things. So as long as they have other 2 prizers on the board, we can Boss's Orders, we can Hop's Double. We also have Scoop Up Cyclone and Toro, so it's possible to reuse the Archaludon or reuse the Hop's Double effect. So that's kind of what's going on here with this build of the deck. And then the last build of the deck, which I have tested 0 amount, and that I am less positive about, is the Archaludon kind of hybrid Hops build. So, of course, we already went over the Hop Zacian, but let's just look at it one more time. It has the Instant Slash 30 that does 30 active and 30 to bench, and then Brave Slash 240. Now we have all these Hops damage modifiers. So we have Snorlax that says your Hops Pokemon do 30 more damage to the active. We have Hop's Choice Band that says your attacks do 30 more damage to your opponent's active, and the attacks cost 1 less to use, which is pretty broken. And then we have Postwick. Attacks used by Hop's Pokemon do 30 more damage to the opponent's active. So that's a plus 90 if you have Hops, the band, and the stadium. So that means that Brave Slash can reach up to 330 damage. Or the first attack could do 120 to the active, 30 to the bench for 0 energy with the Choice Band, with Hop's Choice Band. Then we also have Hop's Cramorant, which is a great single prize attacker to weave in. If your opponent has to be at exactly 3 or 4 prize cards to use this attack. So when they're at 3 or 4 prizes for free because of Hop's Choice Band, you can use this attack, and because of the damage mod, you're using a free attack that does 210 damage, which is really good. And you could also use this to swing through a wall like Mimikyu or Cornerstone, or yeah, pretty much just Mimikyu and Cornerstone are the ones that would bother this deck, I think. So you could definitely use Hop's Cramorant for that. And yeah, this one isn't actually too much changed from a list I found from a city league. The Morty's Conviction is something I wouldn't have put there on my own, but I could see it making sense. You want to draw into the stadium sometimes, or the choice band. And choice band you could search for with Arven, but there's not really much else we want to search for with Arven in this deck, so they're just playing 2 Arven. I think the list, excuse me, I think the list was playing 1 Arven and I bumped it up to 2. But I could also see maybe tossing a rigid band in if we're playing the Arvens as well. So like I said, this list definitely has more work cut out for it. But yeah, the Archaludon lists that I would be looking to test more going into this format are the Archaludon Munki Dory, and like I said, my idea of Calamitous Snowy Mountain that I'm pretty psyched about, and then the Archaludon Poison build, which has a couple of different things going for it. But yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed these lists today. I will leave, I'm going to leave a import link in the description for the monkey version and for the poison version, so you guys can import those and start working with them if you want. I also just want to point out here real quick that just from the Limitless TCG deck builder, you can just click playtest and start like solitairing and trying out a deck. It's not automated, so you do have to like click and drag everything. It's not automated like TCG Masters, but it is still a pretty cool tool to have at our disposal. So, yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.